So like I said, the UN is headquartered in New York City on our soil, and they were not founded, the UN was not founded by the United States. It was founded by two men from France and the UK. And there they are sitting on, I guess, international territory in New York City, and they are clearly against the U.S. Constitution, specifically the Second Amendment, as I said before, because you can see right here, this sculpture that's sitting outside the UN, it's a reference to the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not about violence. It's about protection, the right of people to protect themselves. So this right here could not be more obvious that they are against the United States Constitution, and there they are set up on our own soil. And it makes me wonder who is really behind the mass shootings. David Icke, who lives in the UK, has been talking about their strategy for decades now. It's called problem, reaction, solution. They create a problem, the people react, then they offer their solution. So the mass shootings cause people to react, and their solution is to take away the Second Amendment. That's their agenda, to destroy the foundation of this country. I mean, even the biblical prophetic texts identified them and their true agenda. We've talked about this many times. Check out the video called The Dragon, the Beast, and the Harem. It's linked below. The United Nations is the beast. It's just a remake of the Holy Roman Empire. It comes in the name of peace and love, but under the surface, it's destroying and conquering. It started right here at the first seal. The white horse conquering. The second seal right here was World Wars I and II. The third seal, the Great Depression, and the fourth seal right here that started the wars in the Middle East. And the African famine, that's the death in the fourth part of the earth by war and famine. It's already happened. We've talked about that in the Seven Seals video. It's also linked below. But the religious system is the harlot riding the beast in the text. It's the Roman Church that rules all the other ones. It's ruling everything. I mean, you talk about people who are providing proof that the Vatican started Islam and everything else. It's all linked. Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It's all part of the same religious system. It's the harlot riding the beast. It's the Roman Church that is actually lording over that. And the Vatican is specifically named in the Bible. And this sculpture at the UN headquarters in New York right here is also at the Vatican. It's called Sphere Within a Sphere. And you can see the inner sphere inside of the broken outer sphere. Well, we know what that represents. The prophetic texts tell us they plan to rise out of the coming asteroid impact. We've talked about that as well. Check the links below. But this here represents the rise of what they call the New World Order. And it could not be more clear in those ancient texts that the UN and the Vatican are the first and second beast of Revelation 13. This empire has been rising for centuries, and the UN and the Vatican are both in their eighth kings. And that's specifically mentioned in the prophetic text as well. So, I mean, we're in the time right now. The asteroid impact is about to occur. That's what the texts indicate. The eighth king is the final king. That's what it says. The beast, it says, intends to ascend out of that asteroid impact, but will go into perdition instead. And it's the eighth king that goes into perdition. So this is it. I mean, we are here right now. It's about to happen. So like I said, one of their agendas is to destroy the Constitution, especially the Second Amendment. That's why the Queen's country just north of us in Canada depicts the U.S. laying down flat on the ground without a weapon. And they are standing over the U.S. with a gun. But the U.S. has no gun. Gee, I wonder why. Because they are taking away our guns right now. My guess is they are the ones responsible for these murders that are going on. It's all part of a grand agenda. We've talked about the list of communist goals that was entered into the congressional record in 1963 that said one of their goals was to promote the UN as the saviors of mankind, basically. Well, look at what's going on with the Micheal Brown case right now. His family recently went to the UN for help. And when I saw that, I immediately knew what was going on, who is ultimately responsible for what is happening here. It's not the US, like they're implying right here. It says here, the statement the Micheal Brown family lawyers made at the UN also calls for recommendations that would also apply for the entire United States. Time for global intervention, it says. The Browns' attorney's office said the couple plans to testify on behalf of those who want global intervention in the way policing currently functions in America. Well, I'll tell you how policing functions. It functions according to the Constitution unless you let the UN take over, because then there will not be a constitution at all. This is sick, what the beast is doing here. The UN has targeted a mourning, traumatized family and is using them to further the UN's sick agenda of taking over our legal system, which was set up to protect people like this. And it was the UN that set this up. It says right here, the trip was organized by the Human Rights Network based in New York, which has all these connections to the UN. So the trip was basically orchestrated by the UN. So the Micheal Brown murder is being used to portray the UN as the savior now. And we all know that is part of the communist agenda. So this brings into question who really perpetrated this event. The residents of Ferguson were saying the riots were done by people who were from out of town. So right now the grand jury is deliberating over this as we speak. And I guess they're expected to announce their decision this weekend on whether or not the police officer who shot Micheal Brown will be indicted. So this is something the UN is all over. If that jury decides not to indict that officer, it will be in favor of the UN agenda to remove the US Second Amendment. That's their game plan. It's obvious. They have the family pleading to the UN beast for help when the UN is probably the ultimate cause of their son's death. That's the higher likelihood. I mean, most people don't realize that we are living under the Holy Roman Empire here. The empire doesn't care about this family or any other family. The empire cares about their agenda to take away the rights of American families like this to protect themselves. That's the true agenda. And they use traumatized people to further their agenda all the time. They have been doing that for centuries. The prophetic biblical texts say, after the peace treaty, the UN will work deceitfully. The peace front is a deception. Depicting themselves as the saviors is a centuries-old strategy. The Roman Empire ruling covertly. That is what the texts say it is. Conquering in the name of peace. Murdering in the name of peace. That's what they've been doing for literally more than 1,000 years now. Okay. I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to move on to the rest of this, okay? So that's what was going on last weekend. We know the balloon man in Times Square right here is a warning we received 2 years ago. There's no doubt in my mind. Whether or not, because it was a balloon man standing in New York City, no question. Whether or not there will be another similar warning after this that ties in somehow, I don't know. But this right here, this balloon man standing in Times Square, this has been the most exact fulfillment of that vision so far. Remember, that vision depicts what looked like a nuclear event in New York City. People had boils on their skin. This event right here, the balloon man standing in Times Square, as far as I know, it's still there. I don't know. But it was there that last weekend. It was set up then. This is the most exact fulfillment of that nuclear vision. Okay, but also last weekend, there was that meteorite that hit Texas on November 9th. This is ABC right here. NASA confirms meteor hit in central Texas. It was uploaded November 9th, that significant date we were looking at a few weeks ago. The NASA rep said the brightness of it was extremely unusual, and the sheriff's department in the area reported that it shook the ground when it hit. That's what it's saying right here. So it occurred at 2:45 UTC time on November 9th, which was another date we were watching based on all these synchronicities here. I mean, I don't know what this is all about, but these synchronicities having to do with November 9th had to do with an asteroid impact. Remember that the warning seemed to have started in 2011, but that's not all. Look at the location where the meteorite was spotted. It was in the exact location we were looking at last month. In this video right here, specifically regarding a meteorite impact, this was uploaded October 11th, last month. I was talking about the Batman strike zone map. You might remember that, and how it seems to correspond to the entire United States. And this area of Texas right here, near Sandy Point, which is right on the hook of Texas, we were shown that in a vision in 2013. And I was saying in this video that may actually be Strike Zone 1 on the Batman map, because Sandy Hook on the Batman map is near the 35 freeway. Right here. You can see the 35 goes right through it. It's actually even shaped like Texas. See that? And that 35 goes through right there. It's the exact same shape. So I was saying in this video, uploaded October 11, 2014, that if the strike zones represent a series, the strike zones in the Batman map, if they represent a series of asteroid impacts that will precede the big one, and if strike zone 1 on this hook of Texas where Sandy Point is if that is strike zone 1, then this area of Texas might be the first meteorite and the smallest one of the 5 that are coming. You see what I'm saying? Let me just say that, try to say that in a more clear way. If I was shown this area of Texas in the vision in 2013, we know the visions are coming true. On the Batman map, it says Strike Zone 1 is right here at the 35 at Sandy Hook. This is Sandy Point, Texas on the hook. This is the 35. This is their Strike Zone 1. If that represents the first asteroid impact, I said, in October, if it does, then, and if something hits right here, then that may be the start of the cluster that ends in the big one, because there are 5 strike zones. Okay, I have to stop. I'm going to play you a clip of this video, but I have to stop part 2 right here, and the link to part 2 is below. Okay, so I'm gonna continue and play you this clip in the next video.